Kurtop here, and these are 100 strange finds that could confirm the existence of UFOs. Man-made giant under the ice. Under the thickness of Antarctic ice at a depth of several kilometers, scientists have recorded a structure that cannot be accidental. The length is 300 kilometers. The shape is geometrically precise. The density is comparable to metal. Nature does not create such objects. The discovery was made by an international team led by geophysicist Andrew Carlson. Satellite data and radar showed something that resembles either an artificial structure or an unsolved catastrophe of past eras. The scientist himself admits, "This can change everything we know about our planet." There are few versions. Either it is a ship or a city or a natural anomaly that should not exist. Some suggest that perhaps we are talking about the remains of a prehistoric civilization or an extraterrestrial one. Drilling is impossible for now, but a new expedition is being prepared. And if it is allowed, perhaps we will touch for the first time on what has been lying under the ice and silent all these years. Mysterious photos. This photo raises many questions and controversies. It shows two mysterious figures, and some consider them proof of the existence of alien beings. On the left is a tiny creature with thin limbs, a large head, and characteristic almond-shaped eyes. Its skin has a strange color, as if covered with an iridescent film. On the right is another figure, preserved in a vessel with liquid, reminiscent of exhibits that can be found in scientific laboratories or anatomy museums. Such finds are often associated with conspiracy theories about UFO crashes, secret laboratories, and experiments. Some claim that these are proof of extraterrestrial life, while skeptics consider them skillfully made dummies or anatomical models. Are these artifacts real or just skillfully faked? The question remains open. But one thing is for sure, such images fuel interest in the mystery of extraterrestrial intelligence and make us wonder, what if we are not alone in the universe? Alien visitors in Egypt. Recent archaeological excavations in Egypt have led to a sensational discovery that has attracted the attention of the entire world. Archaeologists have found artifacts in the Giza Plateau area that, according to some scientists, may be evidence that aliens visited Earth 5,000 years ago. It all started with excavations in a recently opened tomb dating back to the Old Kingdom of Egypt. Among the items found, metal plates with mysterious symbols and images of flying objects that resembled modern UFOs stood out. An analysis of the artifacts showed that they were covered in writing in an unknown language. Some scientists suggest that this could be a message from aliens, which the ancient Egyptians could have perceived as contact with another civilization. Linguists are already working to decipher these symbols, but the results remain unclear. Attention was also drawn to the images of unidentified flying objects on the plates, which, according to ufologists, could be a diagram of an alien ship. It seems to me that so far the researchers have made a lot of hasty conclusions, and most likely the interpretation of these plates will be more down to earth. Therefore, it is better to wait until the study of these artifacts is completed and find out what symbols are depicted and why they were there. Infiltrating Area 51. He wasn't looking for UFOs and didn't believe in aliens. He just wanted to follow the old gold diggers route through the Nevada desert. But that route led through a classified area where no one was allowed. Jerry Freeman, an anthropologist from California, became the man who, without knowing it, violated the boundaries of the most closed U.S. base and found himself at the center of one of the greatest mysteries of the 20th century. He walked at night, hiding from patrols, all in order to find the inscriptions left by the pioneers who died in 1849. But in the area of the dried-up Papoose Lake, he encountered a phenomenon that completely knocked him out of his usual reality. Right in the middle of the night desert, a hole opened up, emitting an intense blue light. The light did not dissipate, but seemed to gather into a pulsating core, above which lights floated, flickering, synchronous, clearly unnatural. According to Freeman, he felt a hum coming from underground and vibrations, as if something huge was coming to life right under him. It was not a mirage. It was not the technology of an army proving ground. Everything was too neat, too synchronized to be an accident. He stood in place, unable to move, and understood that if he was discovered, he would disappear forever. Later, he told about this to journalist George Knapp, the same one who in 1989 introduced the world to Bob Lazar and the S4 area. Since then, Jerry Freeman has remained the only one who not only got closer to the secrets of Area 51, but also managed to leave without becoming part of another military secret. Ancient alien flying machines. Here is an artifact decorated with strange symbols and images that resemble flying machines. Some researchers believe that this may be ancient evidence of contacts with extraterrestrial civilizations. The shape of the object is unusual. It resembles a capsule or a ship. Inside, there are figurines with large heads and almond-shaped eyes, which is often associated with descriptions of extraterrestrial beings. On the side surfaces are engraved symbols reminiscent of the writing of ancient civilizations, diagrams, or even star maps. This artifact could have been part of a ritual object reflecting the beliefs of an ancient people, or evidence of something much more incredible. Perhaps before us is an artifact left by representatives of another civilization. CIA alien bases. When the CIA declassifies its archives, it rarely inspires confidence. But among the documents released to the public are reports that are hard to dismiss as fiction. We are talking about secret alien bases, not in the galaxy, but here on Earth. One of these facilities is allegedly located in the area of Mount Hayes in Alaska. According to the reports, this place is not only isolated, but literally permeated with activity that witnesses described as inhuman. The documents contain information about two types of creatures. Some are similar to humans with minimal differences. Others are openly alien, as if torn from science fiction. And although such descriptions sound absurd, they are repeated in dozens of testimonies. Many of them coincide with data that American intelligence agencies have collected in South America, Africa, and even on Titan, a moon of Saturn. Skeptics consider this a game of intelligence agencies, but something else is strange. Why declassify these materials? Why now? Perhaps this is an attempt to prepare public opinion for something bigger, or on the contrary, to distract from what is going on in the shadows. Even stranger are the parallel statements from the White House. Michael Kratsios, the head of the Office of Science and Technology, openly stated that the United States is already manipulating time and space, and Trump, back in 2020, mentioned weapons that no one even knows about. All this may seem like just big words, if you do not know that on Google Maps in the area of Area 51, an object similar to a triangular tower was recently noticed, not marked on any official diagram. Nikola Tesla was an alien? Nikola Tesla was a brilliant inventor whose ideas were ahead of their time. However, his incredible achievements gave rise to many theories, including the suggestion that he was not a man, but an alien. Declassified FBI documents contain a record according to which Tesla may have come from Venus. The author of the book, The Return of the Dove, Margaret Storm, claimed to have accessed this data through an interplanetary communication device allegedly created by Tesla in 1938. The report states that Tesla's engineers were in contact with his spacecraft and that he himself was a Venusian, abandoned on Earth in 1856. This version seems fantastic, but the fact that such statements appeared in official FBI documents raises questions. However, it is worth considering that at the height of the Cold War, intelligence agencies collected a variety of information, including unconfirmed theories. Despite the mystique surrounding his name, Tesla remains a key figure in the history of science. He filed nearly 300 patents, and his discoveries laid the foundation for technologies such as radio, television, and wireless power transmission. Even decades later, his ideas continued to inspire engineers and scientists. Giraffe from Quartz. At first glance, it is a child's figurine. The giraffe, sitting quietly, seems to have frozen in the moment, but it is carved from a single piece of pink quartz, one of the most capricious stones to process. It was not created in Africa or Asia, but in France, in 1900, by the House of Cartier. Why jewelers of the Art Nouveau era decided to carve a giraffe from quartz is unclear. Perhaps it was a symbol of strange lands, exoticism, or a hidden reference to ancient images. After all, in Egypt and Mesopotamia, animal figures were also carved from minerals, only now for private collections and not for temples. Secrets of the Codex Gigas. The Codex Gigas, also known as the Devil's Bible, is an ancient manuscript that holds many mysteries. Created in the 13th century, it amazes with its size and content. Inside the book, you can find not only the texts of the Old and New Testaments, but also an image of the devil himself, which takes up an entire page. Most intriguing, however, are the astronomical maps, which appear unusually detailed for their time. This has given rise to many theories about the possible extraterrestrial origin of the knowledge used to create the Codex. Some researchers believe that the manuscript may contain encrypted messages or knowledge transmitted by alien civilizations. Legend has it that the Codex Gigas was written by a monk in one night with the help of the devil. What does this mysterious manuscript hide? And is it possible that its pages contain encrypted keys to ancient knowledge that came from outer space? The Codex Gigas remains one of the most mysterious artifacts of antiquity, which we will definitely study someday. Sarcophagus of Lord Pal. Lord Pal, also known as Pakal the Great, was the ruler of the city of Palenque in the Mayan civilization. He reigned from 615 to 683 AD and is known for his significant contributions to the city and its culture. Pakal the Great left behind many architectural achievements, including the Temple of the Inscriptions, in which his sarcophagus was discovered. The lid of Lord Pakal's sarcophagus is decorated with complex images that have given rise to many interpretations and debates. It depicts Pakal sitting in an unusual position, surrounded by symbols and hieroglyphs. Its position and surroundings have given rise to various interpretations, including theories about contact with extraterrestrial civilizations. Erich von Daniken, a proponent of the ancient alien theory, interprets the images on the sarcophagus lid as evidence of Mayan contact with aliens. He claims that Pakal is depicted in the position of a spaceship pilot, with his arms, legs, and back supposedly controlling some kind of device. According to Daniken, this indicates that Pakal could be associated with extraterrestrial technology. Archaeologists and historians offer alternative explanations. They believe that the images on the sarcophagus symbolize Pakal's journey to the afterlife and his connection with the Mayan deities. Pakal's pose, in their opinion, represents him as an intermediary between the earthly world and the world of spirits, and not as a pilot of a spaceship. Could Lord Pakal really be an alien? This hypothesis remains highly controversial and lacks scientific evidence. Despite the interesting interpretations proposed by Daniken, most scientists tend to consider these theories fantastic and not based on real data. Other artifacts found at Palenque and other Mayan cities support traditional interpretations. For example, numerous inscriptions and images show scenes from Mayan life, their religious rituals and mythological beliefs. These finds confirm that Pakal and his sarcophagus were part of the Mayan cultural and religious context, rather than evidence of extraterrestrial contact. Object near the Sun. A picture taken by the Lascaux Solar Telescope clearly shows a structure that defies explanation. It appears against the background of the Sun's corona and resembles not just an abstract silhouette, but something concrete, a giant bird with spread wings or an apparatus leaving a trail behind. This is not an illusion. According to scientists' calculations, the span of its wings is about 150,000 kilometers. This is more than 10 times the diameter of the Earth. The object was located at an altitude of about 2 million kilometers above the surface of the Sun. It did not move in orbit, did not burn up in the atmosphere, and did not have a visible trajectory corresponding to the solar wind or gravitational forces. The Solar Astronomy Laboratory of the Space Research Institute of the Russian Academy of Sciences called such images extremely rare and almost never repeated, but even they did not give a clear answer. What exactly we saw? Some researchers believe that this could be an optical artifact or a plasma ejection that has taken a bizarre shape. But then why is its shadow so structured? Why does the object have symmetry, a visual center, and most importantly, movement? It seems as if we were observing not an emission, but a flight, and not a natural phenomenon, but something created. Artifact Star Key. In 1932, a group of archaeologists exploring the high mountain monasteries of Tibet came across a strange object hidden in one of the ancient caves. Inside a stone niche among ritual figurines and scrolls, they discovered a smooth metal disc covered in incomprehensible symbols. The inscriptions did not correspond to any known ancient language, and the material from which the artifact was made shocked scientists. It was not susceptible to scratches, did not react to high temperatures, and, judging by the analysis, was an alloy that does not occur in nature. Local monks called the find the key to heaven, and claimed that the disc belonged to celestial guests who visited Earth thousands of years ago. According to legend, the artifact was part of a device that opened the way to other worlds. Some scientists suggested that the symbols on it could represent a map of the starry sky or a complex coordinate system. The greatest intrigue was caused by the fact that the disk had unusual properties. If you brought a compass to it, the needle would start spinning wildly. When illuminated with ultraviolet light, new previously invisible signs appeared on its surface. Despite numerous studies, the secret of the artifact was never revealed. Nazis and reptiles. The history of World War II is increasingly going beyond the usual. One of the most discussed sources is U.S. Navy engineer William Tompkins, who published his memoirs 2 years before his death, claiming that back in the 1940s, American intelligence knew that the Nazis had made contact with extraterrestrial civilizations. According to him, the Germans interacted with two types of creatures: Nordic, human-like, and reptilian, more aggressive, possessing technologies that allowed the Third Reich to develop the first prototypes of flying machines. These technologies allegedly partially fell into the hands of the United States thanks to a network of spies within the Nazi military-industrial complex. Based on this information, Tompkins claims a secret program associated with the MJ-12 group was launched in the United States, and the development of the first space fleet began. The work was carried out by such companies as Douglas Aircraft and Northrop. He paid special attention to Maria Orsic, a medium of the Vril Society, who, according to him, received the plans through telepathic contact with the Aldebaran system. Orsic worked independently, but in parallel with the Nazis already collaborating with another, more influential side. In one of his last interviews, Tompkins claimed that the astronauts who first landed on the moon found it occupied. Creatures, similar to reptiles, were allegedly in orbit and controlled certain zones. According to his version, the moon is an artificial object, and some of these creatures can change their appearance, infiltrating the structures of power. He also hinted that some world leaders could be connected with these programs. After one of his speeches, Tompkins suddenly died. Some considered him a fantasist, others a witness who told too much. Extraterrestrial metal in ancient burials. Archaeologists have made a sensational discovery in Poland that changes our understanding of the technical capabilities of ancient societies. In two burials from the early Iron Age, dating back to 750–600 BC, researchers have found 4 artifacts, 3 bracelets, and a pin made of meteoric iron. The objects were found in Częstochowa, southern Poland, and had long been kept in a local museum. Only recently, with the help of modern technology, has their unique origin been established. An analysis of the metal's composition using X-ray scanning and electron microscopy showed that the iron contains high amounts of nickel and cobalt, characteristic of rare ataxic meteorites. Moreover, the ornaments on the bracelets were probably made using different types of iron, possibly to create a pattern. This may be the oldest example of patterned iron known to mankind. Meteoric iron is not just a material. In ancient times, it was often considered a heavenly gift and was used to create objects for special purposes. Similar finds can be found, for example, in the tomb of Tutankhamun in Egypt, where a dagger made of meteorite iron was found. And now there is confirmation that such technologies were known in Europe centuries before Rome. Scientists assume that the iron was probably mined locally, possibly after the observed meteorite fall. This confirms that the objects had not only practical but also ritual value. Changes in human DNA. Some scientists are discussing the possibility that alien microbes could interfere with human DNA, causing significant changes to our genetic code. This hypothesis suggests that such microorganisms may not only exist, but also influence human evolution, making us more like them. In support of this idea, researchers point to a number of observed changes in the human population, such as decreased testosterone levels and decreased sperm counts in men. These trends can be interpreted as signs of evolutionary changes, possibly caused by external influences, including environmental factors, or even the influence of extraterrestrial agents. Decreased testosterone levels and sperm count can have serious consequences for reproductive health and population demographics, making this topic important from both a scientific and social perspective. Hill of Jars. In the heart of the Libyan desert, 200 kilometers from the nearest oasis, there is a hill strewn with thousands of ancient clay vessels. This is Abu Balas, a place that still does not give a clear answer. Why did the ancient Egyptians carry hundreds of kilograms of ceramics across the desert to leave them here? The vessels are up to 4,000 years old. Many were intended for water, but there are no springs or wells nearby. The sand hides the fragments, but in the most intact ones it is clear that they were left intentionally, in rows, carefully, like in a warehouse. Some scientists believe that this was a transit base on the way to Central Africa. Others suggest that it was a supply point for some secret expedition, perhaps connected not with trade, but with the search for something that we have long forgotten. The strange route going deep into the desert does not lead to known cities. It ends in the sand, as if the caravans never returned. UFO in Russia. UFOs are a topic that has always excited people's minds. Mysterious objects in the sky have been seen at all times, and ancient chronicles and myths are full of mentions of strange celestial phenomena. Of course, most of them can be explained from a scientific point of view: optical illusions, natural phenomena, or man-made objects. But about 3% of cases remain unanswered. In Russia, interest in UFOs is also great. The first mentions of strange celestial phenomena are found in Russian chronicles. For example, in 1111, during the battle with the Polovtsians, chroniclers recorded the appearance of mysterious celestial forces, and in 1240, something similar was observed in the Battle of the Neva. Of course, it is difficult to say what exactly our ancestors saw, but the fact remains, mysterious objects in the sky have been noted throughout history. In the Soviet years, the study of UFOs was approached more systematically. In 1977, one of the most famous cases occurred, the Petrozavodsk phenomenon. At that time, a glowing object was observed in the sky, the nature of which they tried to explain for a long time. In the end, the official version was reduced to the launch of a satellite. In general, the UFO Commission in the USSR came to the conclusion that most of the observations were rocket launches, atmospheric phenomena, or weather balloons. But despite the skepticism of scientists, people continue to observe mysterious objects. Especially often, reports come from the Urals, from the Chelyabinsk region. In 1990, local historian Vitaly Chernetsov told about a strange flying object over Lake Zhiratkul, which seemed to take water from the reservoir. And in 2003, in Chelyabinsk, eyewitnesses saw a UFO emitting such a bright blue light that it was possible to read by it. Another place of power is the Perm region, or more precisely, the village of Molebka. This place is called the Russian Bermuda Triangle. Researchers and tourists regularly come here, hoping to see a UFO. Ufologists even claim that they have found fragments of an unknown device here containing pure tungsten, a metal that is rarely found in nature. Altai is not far behind. In 2007, local residents observed a huge glowing ball that lit up the night sky, and then a loud bang was heard. Some say it was a meteorite, but no evidence was found. In 2010, archaeology students filmed a video of an object hovering over the taiga. Amber from the prehistoric depths. A Baltic amber nugget weighing over a kilogram was found in a quarry near Kaliningrad. It is 35 to 45 million years old. Triangular shape, smooth surface, minimal chipping. It seems not to have been created by nature but processed by time. Almost perfect, as if it was waiting to be found. Baltic amber is a fragile material. It rarely reaches us in this form. Usually fragments, shards, inclusions, but this piece is a monolith. Experts say that such nuggets are unique and each gets its own name. After examination, it will either go to a museum display case or to a closed auction amber forum where rare samples are sold to collectors from all over the world. But what makes it truly special is not the price or the weight, it is the age. 40 million years is long before the appearance of man. This is the time when mammals in the form we are accustomed to did not yet exist on Earth. And everything that could have gotten into that amber came from a world we will never see. Something inside it could have been older than we realize. A particle of atmosphere, a spore of an unknown plant, the trace of a creature whose name we will never know, or something that should never have gotten there at all. Aliens called home. Former U.S. counterintelligence agent Luis Elizondo has made another big statement. According to him, some UFOs observed by the military clearly have engraved symbols resembling ancient writing. These signs, he claims, could be an attempt by aliens to convey information or even instructions. Elizondo previously headed the secret AATIP program, which studied aerospace threats. He says that he personally saw oval objects with an unusual surface on which symbols similar to hieroglyphs or runes were engraved. He believes that such things are not applied just like that. This is part of communication. Interestingly, some of these symbols are similar in appearance to ancient writings found on Earth. According to him, the Pentagon has long been comparing these signs with ancient alphabets, trying to find matches. Perhaps aliens use a universal visual language, which means that we have more in common than it seems. Elizondo even mentioned the phrase, "they've already called home," hinting at attempts to communicate with other worlds. Elizondo's testimony is confirmed by other eyewitnesses. Military pilot Jake Barber said he saw an object of non-human origin just 150 feet away from him. Later, he was allegedly lifted aboard a helicopter. Elizondo is sure that there are many such devices, and U.S. intelligence has been studying them for a long time, including fragments, microchips, and even biomaterials. He calls on the authorities to disclose this data and begin an honest dialogue with society. Skull ring. In Norfolk, England, treasure hunter Malcolm Wheel found a ring in the ground that had been there for 300 years. It was made in 1723 in memory of Sir Bassingbourn Gaudy, an aristocrat who died under mysterious circumstances. On the outside is enamel depicting a skull. Inside is engraved the date and age of the deceased. Everything is extremely precise with attention to detail, but at the same time, too personal. The ring creates a strange feeling, as if its owner did not just wear memory, but made a contract with it. Gaudy came from a family in which power, deafness, religion, and closed knowledge were intertwined. His father and uncle were the first deaf mutes in England to receive an education. Their home, Gaudy Hall, received the Queen. Why was the ring lost or hidden? The ring could have been worn by those who kept some oath, or was connected to this person much more closely than official history allows. Martian meteorites. Hello from space. Seriously, these rocks came to us straight from Mars. It sounds unbelievable, but it's a scientific fact. How did pieces of the red planet end up on Earth? It all started with a giant impact. Either an asteroid or a comet collided with Mars, throwing fragments of rock into space. Due to the planet's weak gravity, 2.5 times less than Earth's, the debris escaped Mars and went on an interplanetary journey. Some took millions of years to reach Earth. One of the largest meteorites is Tau Denis 002, found in Mali in 2021. Its weight is 14.5 kilograms, and the most famous is the Allen Hills meteorite, discovered in Antarctica. It arrived 13,000 years ago, and inside it, scientists found possible traces of Martian life. Alien ship fragments in the ocean. A renowned Harvard University astrophysicist, Avi Loeb, who gained popularity for his UFO research and possible contacts with aliens, reported the possible discovery of alien ship fragments on the ocean floor. Loeb became famous for his theory about the unusual nature of the asteroid Oumuamua, which accelerated and deviated from the expected trajectory for no apparent reason in 2017, which led the scientists to suggest its artificial origin. Recently, Loeb drew attention to a meteorite that fell into the Pacific Ocean in 2014. The object, known as IM-1, was distinguished by an unusual speed of movement. The scientist went to the site of its fall and, together with his team, extracted fragments from a depth of 1,700 meters. As a result, they discovered about 50 small balls consisting of iron, magnesium, and titanium, about 0.3 millimeters in size. Loeb and his colleagues suggest that these spherules may be evidence of an alien spacecraft crash landing on Earth. However, many scientists are skeptical of his hypothesis, arguing that such fragments with such a composition may be the result of natural processes that occur when meteorites fall into the atmosphere and onto the ocean floor. The forgotten color of Egypt. Almost 5,000 years ago, the Egyptians created something that has eluded all who came after them. It's not a temple or a ritual, but a color, Egyptian blue. It was the first artificial pigment in human history. Its recipe disappeared after the Roman Empire. For centuries, people tried to replicate it, but to no avail. Only recently have scientists managed to recreate it, with the help of modern microscopes, high temperatures, and almost blind persistence. The pigment was made from silicon, copper, calcium, and sodium, heating it all at 1,000 degrees. But the most amazing thing is not in the composition, but in the result. The recreated samples turned out to be complex, heterogeneous, with unique properties. Egyptian blue not only retains its brightness after thousands of years, it emits near-infrared light. That is why it is now being studied not only by archaeologists, but also by technology developers. For protection, for analysis, for use in technology. It turns out that the ancients knew more than we think, and perhaps they used these properties for more than just beauty. Sometimes color isn't just paint, it's a language, and if we decipher it, we'll hear something much more ancient than the pyramids themselves. $2 billion for silence about aliens. The famous ufologist Stephen Greer is again in the spotlight. He said he received a generous offer from a high-ranking U.S. government official, a man he calls one of the leading UFO experts. According to Greer, he was offered a huge sum to just shut up. Greer founded the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence back in 1990. In recent years, he has repeatedly claimed to have had contact with aliens and to be running covert government operations. His reputation is controversial even among ufologists. Some see him as a bold whistleblower, while others see him as a fanatic without evidence. He said that in 1992, General Albert Stubblebine, the former head of U.S. military intelligence, allegedly personally offered him $2 billion to give up public activity. At the time, Greer was in his early 30s, a young doctor, and according to him, he seriously considered it, but refused. He believes it is all part of a larger disinformation operation involving the CIA and other intelligence agencies. The host of the podcast where the story was told expressed doubt, calling it hard to believe. But Greer insists he is willing to take a lie detector test and his wife can confirm everything he said. However, General Stubblebine died in 2017 and can no longer refute or confirm the story. Asteroid influence and contact with the gods. The asteroid, believed to have wiped out the dinosaurs some 66 million years ago, has left a significant mark on the Yucatan Peninsula. This impact created the Chicxulub crater, which is still an important geological feature. Although this cataclysm occurred long before the emergence of the Mayan civilization, its long-term geological and environmental consequences may have influenced the formation of the region in which the culture later developed. Archaeological finds, such as cities and buildings destroyed and buried under a layer of sediment, may indirectly confirm the theory of cataclysms that occurred in Yucatan. However, there is no direct evidence that the Mayans knew about the asteroid that destroyed the dinosaurs or had any information about them. The idea that the Mayans may have had contact with dinosaurs is scientifically unfounded. Dinosaurs went extinct long before the first humans appeared, not to mention the Mayan civilization. However, in mythology and their art, one can find depictions of creatures that can be interpreted as legendary or mythical animals, but this is not evidence of their actual contact with dinosaurs. Researchers sometimes find dinosaur fossils in Mesoamerica, but these findings date back to a time before human history. Such finds may be of interest to geologists and paleontologists, but they do not support the theory of Mayan contact with dinosaurs. Knowledge of ancient cataclysms may have been integrated into their mythology and beliefs, linking natural phenomena to the actions of the gods. The Mayans believed in cyclical time and recurring catastrophes, which may have been a reflection of their understanding of the past and prediction of future events. Reich colony in the East. The Nazis didn't just want to defeat the Soviet Union, they planned to completely redraw the map of the world. The lands from East Prussia to the Urals were to be transformed into living space for the Germans. Russians, Ukrainians, Belarusians, and everyone else, according to Himmler's plan, were to disappear, be deported, or reduced to a minimum. The plan was called Ost. It included the construction of German cities throughout the European part of the USSR, connected by highways, guarded by garrisons, and surrounded by an obedient local population. Children would be taught only the multiplication table, how to read road signs and signatures. No more. No culture, no history, no language. There was no place for a person inside this project. Only a function, only a tool. The east of Europe was being transformed into a biological springboard for the Aryan race. And the longer you look at these schemes, the more you get the feeling. This is not just an ideology, it is a technology. Scary, inhuman, and frighteningly logical. A call from aliens. Humanity has been sending signals into space for decades, hoping to establish contact with alien civilizations. But what if Earth ever receives a response? If scientists manage to detect signs of extraterrestrial life, then most likely the first to know about it will be specialists from the SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, program. This project began its work back in 1959 when scientists began to study signals from space. Today, powerful computers are used to analyze a huge number of radio signals, tracking any unusual patterns. According to Seth Shostak, SETI's chief astronomer, even if a signal from aliens is detected, it will not lead to panic. All the results will be confirmed by other telescopes and the whole world will definitely know about it. In the end, the news of such a discovery will instantly spread through the media and social networks. Although previous attempts to contact aliens have resulted in false alarms, scientists believe it is important to prepare for real contact. But the question of how to respond to aliens remains open. It will require international cooperation, and the main language of communication, according to scientists, will be mathematics. Professor Paul Davis from Arizona State University leads a team working on a response. It is believed that aliens may simply send a signal to say, "Hello, Earthlings, we are here." But how to express the essence of human life or our values using mathematics remains a challenge. Plume beneath Africa. Something is happening deep beneath the African continent that could change not only geography but also our understanding of Earth's stability. Scientists have discovered a giant plume, a flow of hot rock rising from the boundary of the mantle and core. Its power is so great that it is literally tearing Africa apart. Signals of this movement have been recorded in Kenya, Malawi, and even the Red Sea. Gas isotopes and geothermal vents point to the same source, a deep mantle flow similar to the one that formed Hawaii. Only in Africa it does not go up, but outward, breaking the lithosphere from within. This explains the growing volcanic activity in East Africa and the progressing rift that stretches for thousands of kilometers. Some scientists are sure that the continent will indeed split apart in the foreseeable future, but that's not the only question. If a plume is capable of destroying continents, then who or what can use such forces? After all, such phenomena are described not only in geology, but also in ancient texts and in legends, where the Earth suddenly disappears from under your feet. Iranian interceptors and UFOs. On the night of September 18, 1976, a mysterious event occurred in the skies over Tehran, which went down in history as the Tehran Incident. A report on this incident was sent to several U.S. agencies at once: the State Department, the CIA, the Pentagon, and the NSA. It all started with an alarming call to the commander of the Iranian Air Force. The controller observed an unknown object in the sky which was not listed in either the civilian or military registers. An F-4 Phantom fighter was raised, but as it approached the target, the communications and onboard systems failed, and the pilot was forced to retreat. The second interceptor encountered an even stranger phenomenon. A cylinder separated from a large luminous object and headed straight for the aircraft. Lieutenant Parviz Jafari tried to open fire, but the weapon system failed, as did the ejection seat. Only when it began to move away did the equipment work again. There were many eyewitnesses to the incident: military personnel, airport dispatchers, passengers of the Egyptian airliner. The object was recorded by radars and even an Iranian satellite. This case remains one of the most documented in the history of ufology. Whether to believe in UFOs or not is a personal question, but those who saw it with their own eyes have no doubts. The incorrupt body of the saint. In August 2024, the tomb of Saint Teresa of Avila was opened for the first time in 111 years. Crowds gathered in the Spanish Basilica to see what, by all the laws of biology, should have disappeared. But the body of the nun, who died in 1582, remained incorrupt. The face is visible, the limbs are preserved, and most importantly, there is something inexplicable: strange calcium spikes protruding from the feet as if the bone itself continued to live. To open the sarcophagus, 10 keys were needed, kept by different authorities: the Duke, the monastery, the Vatican. The access system is more reminiscent of a ritual than technical protection. Scientists studied the remains, compared them with photographs from a century ago, and could not find a logical explanation for such a level of preservation. Her death was recorded in the monastery of Alba de Tormes. She walked there despite the intense pain, and shortly before her death she said, "I have reached the house of death." After that, absolute peace, silence, and now, centuries later, a body that refuses to decompose. Believers talk about a miracle. Researchers talk about a phenomenon. But the question remains, if flesh can survive centuries without rotting, what do we really know about the boundary between life and death? Yonauni Monument. Off the coast of Japan, near the island of Yonauni, there is one of the most mysterious underwater objects, the Yonauni Monument. This massive rock complex was discovered in 1986 by Japanese diver Kihachiro Aratatake. The structure, lying at a depth of about 25 meters, resembles giant terraces and platforms, giving the impression of an ancient megalithic complex. The origin of the Yonauni Monument is still a matter of debate. Some scientists believe the structure is a natural geological formation that has been eroded. However, the symmetry and clear lines, reminiscent of steps and walls, lead many researchers to assume that this is a man-made structure. Proponents of the theory of an ancient civilization point to possible similarities with other megalithic structures, such as the pyramids of Egypt or structures in Malta. These hypotheses raise questions about what technologies might have been used to create such structures thousands of years ago. The most intriguing is the hypothesis of extraterrestrial intervention. Some researchers believe that such complex and massive structures could only be created with the help of knowledge and technology transmitted by alien guests. The Yonauni Monument continues to attract the attention of scientists and mystery lovers from all over the world. Shiva Linga. In the city of Sirsi in India, there is a unique place of pilgrimage, Sahasra Linga. Here, amidst the natural beauty, there are stone images of Shiva Linga which delight with their appearance, especially during the Maha Shivaratri festival. At this time, the water level in the river drops, making the sculptures visible and attracting thousands of pilgrims and tourists who want to see and worship the sacred lingas. Shiva Lingam is a symbol of Shiva, one of the main deities in Hinduism, representing the source of creation and destruction. Interestingly, there are not only religious but also scientific controversies surrounding the Shiva Lingam. Some proponents of theories about ancient astronauts argue that the Shiva Lingam may be a powerful technological device, similar in function to a modern nuclear reactor. Based on the shape and properties of the lingam, they suggest that ancient people may have used advanced technology. On the other hand, modern scientists may interpret the Shiva Linga as a symbol of atomic energy, which also has the potential for both great benefit and destruction. This analogy emphasizes the dual nature of Shiva, who in the Hindu tradition is both the creator and the destroyer. Fragments of alien technology. Harvard University professor Avi Loeb suggests that he found particles of extraterrestrial technology in a meteorite that fell in 2014 off the coast of Papua New Guinea. These fragments were taken to Harvard for examination, and the U.S. Space Command confirmed with a 99.99% probability that the material came from another solar system. Loeb and his team traveled to the site of the meteorite impact on the ship Silver Star. They discovered 10 spherules, metallic balls colored gold, blue, and brown, some of which resembled a miniature Earth. Analysis showed that the spherules contained 84% iron, 8% silicon, 4% magnesium, and 2% titanium. Loeb emphasized that these materials were stronger than space rocks ever recorded by NASA and were moving at a speed of 60 kilometers per s, which is faster than 95% of all stars near the Sun. These results suggest the possible artificial nature of the spherules, which could provide unique insights into materials beyond our solar system. The researchers suggest that the spherules may be part of a larger find, which they plan to explore in future expeditions. The Mystery of Aral. Archaim, often called the Russian Stonehenge, is one of the most mysterious archaeological sites in Russia. Located in the steppes of the southern Urals, this megalithic complex is striking in its size and precision of planning, which makes it similar to the famous Stonehenge in Great Britain, both in astronomical functions and in geographical latitude. Archaim is a round fortress with two concentric rings of walls and streets connecting dwellings, which were built taking into account the astronomical knowledge of the ancients. Research has shown that the buildings in Archaim were built in such a way as to observe 18 astronomical events, including solstices and equinoxes. This indicates a high level of astronomical knowledge of the peoples who inhabited this region in the Bronze Age. Archaim not only attracts archaeologists, but is also a subject of interest for researchers of anomalous phenomena. Unusual magnetic anomalies are recorded in the area of the complex, which sometimes affect the operation of electronic devices. These anomalies, as well as a number of other unexplained phenomena, give rise to various theories, including suggestions that Archeim could have been used or even created by extraterrestrial civilizations. In addition, the unique architecture and complex water supply system testify to the high level of social organization and engineering skill of its builders. These qualities make Archeim one of the key Bronze Age monuments in Eurasia. The Blue Lights of Criveill. On the coast of Ireland in County Donegal, there is an ancient tomb that locals speak of with caution. Criveill is one of the oldest megalithic structures in Europe, but even against the background of other Neolithic monuments, it stands out. Here, according to eyewitnesses, blue lights come on at night, quietly, without noise. Flashes of light flare up between the stones, as if someone or something still comes there. Officially, the tomb dates back to the 4th millennium BC. It consists of a courtyard, a ritual corridor, and burial chambers. The stones stand exactly as they did thousands of years ago. But the legends are much older than the excavations. They talk about a white hair that cannot be caught, about voices among the stones, about a strange hill that breathes, and about ancient spirits who are disturbed only by those who come without respect. Excavations in the 1930s showed that Criveill was used not only in the Neolithic. The remains of an early Christian forge were also found here. Someone came 2,000 years later, placed a smelting furnace right at the entrance to the tomb, and began to smelt metal, perhaps in the hope of using the power of the place, or to come to an agreement with those who remained there. Now, tourists come here during the day, but the locals never stay after sunset. Blue lights appear rarely, but when they do, it is always sudden. Aliens appeared on Earth before humans. Researchers from Harvard and Montana Technological University have put forward a hypothesis that could radically change the idea of the place of aliens in the universe and on our planet. According to their theory, aliens arrived on Earth long before humans appeared, and instead of leaving it, decided to stay underground. This idea was called the crypto-Earth hypothesis. The authors suggest that aliens populated the Earth millions of years ago, possessing advanced technologies. With the advent of humanity, they decided to hide, perhaps so as not to interfere directly with the development of civilization. However, from time to time, they helped people with advice, technology, knowledge for which they were taken for gods. According to scientists, there is a lot of evidence for this. From mysterious artifacts and images of flying saucers on ancient engravings to structures that were impossible for their time. It is interesting that researchers consider not only the Earth's interior to be possible alien bases, but also the Moon, especially its dark side, Mars, and the depths of the oceans. The Alaska Triangle is also mentioned, where UFOs are regularly observed and mysterious disappearances of people are recorded. According to another version, aliens could have arrived on Earth on a planet ship, having left their dying star. This hypothesis explains how they overcame huge interstellar distances. They may have left their planet on the outskirts of the solar system, beyond the orbit of Pluto. Skeptics, of course, point to the lack of direct evidence, but the authors insist we still have little idea what is hidden underground, in sea trenches, and on the far side of the Moon. Perhaps intelligent life has long been nearby, it just does not want to be discovered. Whether to believe the Harvard researchers or not is up to everyone. I'm just telling you about the newest finds and interesting facts about our history. Boxes from Argentina. In the basement of the Supreme Court of Argentina, behind old boxes disguised as crates of champagne, something unexpected was found. Inside were passports, manifestos, membership lists, and propaganda of the Nazi Party. 12 wooden boxes, tightly sealed, had lain untouched since the 1940s. According to the investigation, they were delivered to the country under the guise of alcoholic beverages on a Japanese ship, when Europe was already engulfed in war and the Third Reich was looking for alternate routes to escape and maintain its influence. The documents were handed over to experts. Among them are real IDs, records with names, potential traces of the escape of high-ranking Reich officials. These are not rumors about the escape of Nazis to Latin America. These are physical evidence that have lain in the archives of state power for almost 80 years. Argentina has long been on the list of countries where former Nazis could hide. But a theory is one thing, and a discovery confirmed in official sources is quite another. The question now is not whether they were there, but why no one has looked for these documents yet, or vice versa, why everyone knew but kept quiet. Gobi Astronaut. In 1834, in the Gobi Desert in Mongolia, the famous English explorer and cartographer Charles Edwin discovered a mysterious cave in the rock. Inside the cave was an unusually large skeleton, almost 5 meters in length, with a proportionately enlarged skull and curved ribs. Next to the skeleton lay metal objects severely distorted by corrosion, but one object attracted the attention of scientists: a stone slab with a map of the starry sky and directions that did not correspond to known star systems. The plate, according to Edwin, was not just an artifact but a tool for navigation, or part of an ancient astronomical device. Interestingly, research has shown that the slab material contains rare earth elements that are not common to the region where the cave was found. This gave rise to speculation about the possible extraterrestrial origin of both the slab itself and the creature whose remains lay nearby. Further examination of the stone slab revealed that the cartographic markings on it could have been used for navigation in outer space, suggesting that the creature could have been a pilot or explorer from a distant star system. Scientists have suggested that the creature's death could have been the result of the crash of its ship, parts of which could have been scattered across the desert and buried under layers of sand for centuries. This discovery has remained little known due to political and scientific disputes over the origins and meaning of the artifacts found, but it continues to cause controversy among scientists and adventurers seeking to uncover the secrets of ancient civilizations. Sphere from Colombia. In March 2025, a metal sphere fell from the sky over the city of Buga in Colombia. Weight about 2 kilograms, temperature below expectations. Inside, 13 microspheres surrounding a dense core. Layers, similar to metal but without traces of welding or connections. Scientists are studying all this, but one fact already raises questions. The object does not look like an earthly one. Radiologist José Luis Velázquez said he did not find signs indicating human production. The structure is solid. The material is 3-layered. The source is unknown. But skeptics are not silent, and many claim that the pattern on the object was generated by artificial intelligence. The lines are uneven. The design is too human. Plus, Jaime Maussan, a famous ufologist whose previous statements about aliens turned out to be unproven, has appeared in the story again. So far, no one has given a clear answer. But the question remains, if this is not satellite debris, not part of a rocket, and not a fake, then what exactly fell to Earth then, and why now? An inevitable encounter with a UFO. What will happen if we discover alien intelligence? Senior astronomer at the SETI Institute Seth Shostak is sure that such a moment is inevitable. According to him, signal search technologies are improving, and their efficiency doubles every 2 years. If contact with an extraterrestrial civilization occurs, it will change the course of history. Shostak compares such an event to the discovery of America by Europeans, only on the scale of an entire civilization. In his opinion, there will be no panic. Rather, people will show curiosity and try to establish communication. But what if aliens are dangerous? There's no point in hiding. Earth's radio signals have long been scattered throughout the universe. The only difficulty is deciphering the answer. The religious question is also important. History knows examples when an encounter with a more advanced culture undermined the faith of peoples. The discovery of aliens can lead to a similar crisis. But what if we find only microbial life, say, on Mars? It's not as spectacular, but it would prove that Earth is not the only place where life is born. Shostak believes that if we receive a signal, it may not be sent by biological beings, but by advanced artificial intelligence. Perhaps the future of civilizations lies not in living organisms, but in thinking machines. Dragon houses and Mount Ojai. The dragon houses on the island of Euboea in Greece are mysterious megalithic structures that amaze with their massiveness and precision. These ancient structures, built from huge stone blocks without the use of binding mortar, date back to around the 8th century BC. Legends associate dragon houses with the gods, particularly Zeus, and describe them as places of sacred rituals and the habitat of ancient dragons who guard these territories. Mount Ojai, where some of the dragon houses are located, is considered a place of contact with the gods due to its remoteness and majestic location. In ancient Greek mythology, mountains were often associated with the abodes of the gods and places of their manifestations. This mountain towering above the surrounding landscape could be perceived as a sacred place where divine meetings and rituals took place. Archaeologists face many difficulties when studying these megalithic structures. One of the main mysteries is how the ancient builders were able to transport and lay such huge stone blocks on the tops of the mountains. The logistics and technical aspects of their construction remain unclear, especially given the lack of modern tools and equipment. There is also no exact data on the time and purpose of the construction of these structures, which complicates their study and interpretation. According to legend, Zeus used these places for his meetings with people and other gods. The dragons mentioned in legends could be symbols of his strength and protection of sacred places. There is a theory that the dragon houses could be places of contact with aliens. Proponents of this hypothesis argue that the unusual architecture and precise geometry of these buildings indicate the possible influence of extraterrestrial civilizations. They believe that the ancient Greeks may have interpreted encounters with aliens as contacts with the gods, which was reflected in their myths and legends.
Stationary underwater objects. There are many stationary anomalous objects hidden in the oceans that still remain a mystery to scientists. Even if we put aside myths such as the legends of Atlantis, the list of interesting finds is still impressive. One of the most famous is the Yonauni Monument, located near the Ryukyu Islands, not far from the Japanese Yonaguni. These are stone structures located at a shallow depth that have regular geometric shapes. Despite the fact that most scientists consider them to be a natural geological formation, many researchers and pseudo-archaeologists are trying to prove that these stones are the result of human activity. Another mystery is the megalith found at the bottom of the Gulf of Pantelleria Vecchia in the Tunisian Strait. This is a huge stone, 12 meters long and weighing 15 tons, in which there are 3 round holes. Based on its structure, it is assumed that it was processed by man in the Mesolithic, about 15,000 years ago. However, rock analysis showed that its age could be much higher, more than 40,000 years, which casts doubt on its origin. The Cuban underwater city is another mysterious discovery made in 2001 off the west coast of Cuba. With the help of sonar, geometric structures resembling pyramids and rings consisting of granite blocks were discovered. These findings raised a lot of questions among researchers, as they could be both natural formations and the result of human activity. These and other objects remain the subject of active research and discussion because their origin can reveal a lot of unknown things about ancient civilizations and the nature of the ocean depths. Mutant in space. A new species of bacteria has been discovered on board the Chinese space station. Its name is Nealia tiangongensis. It looks like an ordinary microorganism, but genetic analysis has shown that it has not only adapted to the conditions of weightlessness and radiation, it has changed. Its ability to create a protective biofilm, adapt to an aggressive environment, and survive where other forms of life die puts it apart from other bacteria on Earth. Research has shown that the microbiome on the Chinese station is different from that on the ISS. In composition, behavior, and reaction, the conditions have changed the bacteria so much that they no longer fit into familiar biology. They have become something else. And this raises questions not only for microbiologists. What if space conditions do not simply adapt life, but transform it? And what if similar forms already exist beyond Earth, and they are the ones adjusting the environment to themselves and not the other way around? If bacteria can mutate into something new in a matter of months, what happens to those who spend years in space? UFO over Sakhalin. A video of a mysterious object spotted in Russia over the Sakhalin Mountains is gaining popularity on the internet. According to Newsfroll, the video appeared on social networks and quickly went viral. Presumably, the filming was done from a military helicopter. The footage shows a metal disc slowly hovering over a mountain range, reflecting sunlight. It is clearly larger than a standard drone. At some point, the object changes its trajectory and disappears behind the clouds. The recording is accompanied by the characteristic sound of a helicopter, which, according to supporters of authenticity, confirms the reality of the filming. There is only one question: what was it? An example of mysterious blue. This is not just a piece of jewelry, it is a bracelet from the tomb of Tutankhamun, more than 3,300 years old.
A scarab made of lapis lazuli, framed with carnelian, turquoise, and gold, it is the embodiment of the idea of eternal transformation. The Egyptians believed that the scarab rolled the sun across the sky like a ball. Therefore, it symbolized renewal, protection, and the transition between worlds. But the focus is not only on the shape, but also on the color. This rich, almost luminous blue is not paint. It is Egyptian blue, the first synthetic pigment in history, which the Egyptians created almost 2,000 years before Christ. Modern scientists are only now beginning to understand how complex the technology of its creation was.
Life in a meteorite. Researchers studying a meteorite found on the island of Sri Lanka have said that it is not just a rock fragment from outer space, but a potential artifact of extraterrestrial origin. The analysis revealed the presence of fossils of microscopic algae, which, according to scientists, may be evidence of the panspermia hypothesis, the idea that life is spread throughout the universe via asteroids and comets. These discoveries have attracted widespread interest as they could support the theory of the existence of life beyond Earth. However, the results have been criticized by the scientific community. Some experts argue that the fossils found are too similar to terrestrial microorganisms living in fresh water. The possibility of contamination of the meteorite by terrestrial life forms during its stay on the surface of the Earth also remains a serious argument against the hypothesis of extraterrestrial origin of the find.
Antarctic sarcophagi. During an international scientific expedition in Antarctica, a group of researchers from the United States, China, Russia, and India discovered an object that immediately caused controversy and concern. At a depth of several dozen meters under the permafrost, 4 dark sarcophagi were found, smooth even, with corners and edges so perfect that they could indicate laser processing. The shape resembled monolithic slabs, and the sarcophagi themselves maintained a stable temperature above zero despite the surrounding cold. Researchers recorded a low-frequency hum and slight vibrations of the soil in the immediate vicinity of the objects, although none of the installations located in the camp could be the source of such vibrations. When one of the sarcophagi was opened, a metal cylinder was found with symbols that did not relate to any known script. Scientists put forward several versions of the origin of the find. One hypothesis suggests that the sarcophagi may be traces of an ancient civilization that existed before the last ice age. Another suggests a man-made origin and a connection to as-yet unidentified technological experiments during the Cold War. However, proponents of UFO theories believe that what we see is a fragment of an extraterrestrial structure abandoned or hidden under the ice many thousands of years ago. Despite the resonance, official data on the incident remains limited, and the sarcophagi themselves were seized for further study in closed laboratories. Billionaire accused of trying to hide UFOs. British ufologist and filmmaker Mark Christopher Lee has made a big statement. According to him, evidence of the existence of aliens has already been obtained, but is being carefully hidden from the public. At the center of this story is Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg, who, according to Lee, is funding a SETI research project called Breakthrough Listen. It was this program, which searches for extraterrestrial signals, that 2 years ago recorded a strange radio signal coming from the Proxima Centauri system, the closest star system to us, located just 4.2 light-years from Earth. Initially, it was explained as ordinary satellite interference. However, Professor Simon Holland, a former BBC science editor and NASA consultant, refuted this version. According to him, the signal has all the signs of extraterrestrial origin. Researchers from Cambridge have allegedly already discovered signs of biological activity on an exoplanet in this system, but have not yet published the data due to possible political consequences. There is a fear that if the information is released too early, it could spark panic or an international race to make contact. Holland and Lee believe that the dissemination of such data is tightly controlled, and it is possible that scientists in China or Russia could try to make such information public first. Alien ecosystem. On the remote Puna de Atacama Plateau in the Atacama Desert, located at an altitude of over 3,650 meters on the border of Argentina and Chile, archaeologists have found a unique ecosystem with crystal-clear lagoons surrounded by salt flats. It rarely rains in this region, and the sun creates extreme conditions.
Last April, geologist Brian Hynek and microbiologist Maria Farias discovered these lagoons while studying satellite images and went there. Despite the difficulty of the journey, the researchers discovered 12 lagoons with a total area of 10 hectares surrounded by barren mountains. Beneath the water were green mounds called stromatolites, microbial communities that form massive fossils. These formations resemble stromatolites from the Archean era of the Earth, when there was almost no oxygen in the atmosphere. Hynek believes this lagoon may be one of the best examples of early signs of life on Earth. In the Atacama lagoons, formations are composed primarily of gypsum, a mineral often found in fossil stromatolites. Hynek noted that conditions in the lagoon are reminiscent of ancient Earth. Lithium will be mined in this area, so the unique ecosystem will most likely be destroyed. The mystery of drops disks. In 1938, in a remote area of China in the Bayan Karaula Mountains, archaeologists discovered amazing artifacts, drop disks. These disks, made of granite, have a diameter of about 30 centimeters and a thickness of approximately 1 centimeter. They attracted the attention of scientists with their unusual appearance. Each disc contains a central hole and cut spiral grooves reminiscent of tracks for playing sound. That is, they look like vinyl records and perhaps contain the sounds of ancient people, nature, or even something alien. Most intriguingly, the grooves on the discs contain microscopic characters that resemble hieroglyphs. Researchers say these symbols may be a form of ancient writing encoded in spiral patterns. Translations by some scholars suggest that the discs may tell of an ancient civilization known as the Drapa, which may have had contact with extraterrestrial beings. According to legend, the Dropa tribe arrived on Earth about 12,000 years ago from a distant star. But unfortunately, there are practically no artifacts left from them except these records. The Dropa discs remain one of the most mysterious archaeological finds, raising many questions about possible contacts between ancient people and aliens. Mayan Triangle. In the jungles of Guatemala, archaeologists have found not one but 3 ancient Mayan cities built in the shape of a triangle. The distance between them is about 5 kilometers. Everything indicates that it was a system, not random, not chaotic. Centers connected by meaning, angles calibrated to celestial bodies, temples, pyramids, and water channels, like parts of one mechanism. The city of Los Abuelos got its name in honor of 2 stone figures, a man and a woman. They are considered ancestors. In this city, buildings are oriented to the solstices and equinoxes. Probably the city was some kind of ritual observatory. The human and animal remains. Vessels and arrowheads indicate that something more than just astronomy took place here. In Petnal, archaeologists discovered a 33-meter pyramid with a flat top and an altar in the shape of a frog, a symbol of renewal, life, cycle. The walls of the chamber inside the pyramid are covered with faded frescoes, red, white, black. Their meaning has not yet been deciphered. The third city, Criveill, was impressive not for its height but for its engineering. At the top of the palace there is a reservoir from which water flowed through a system of channels. Archaeologists assume that these channels were used not only for water, but also for waste disposal. This means that the Maya already had a city model back then, including life support systems. Vikings and UFOs. In 2022, an unusual Viking Age game token was found during archaeological excavations in Trondheim, Norway. This small artifact made of soapstone was discovered in an ancient well dating back to the 11th–12th centuries. Strange symbols resembling runes were engraved on its surface. After detailed analysis, scientists confirmed that this was indeed a runic inscription, possibly meaning battle brother or comrade in arms. But the researchers encountered another mystery. In addition to the obvious runes, there were thinner lines on the surface of the token, which upon closer examination formed a pattern resembling an unknown star map. Some alternative history enthusiasts have suggested that this pattern may be a stylized image of an object resembling a disc-shaped UFO. The connection between the Vikings and the observation of strange phenomena has long been discussed by historians and ufologists. The Scandinavian sagas repeatedly mention chariots of fire and heavenly ships plowing through the sky. Perhaps the ancient warriors encountered phenomena that today could be interpreted as contacts with extraterrestrial beings. Satellite data. Modern satellite images available through various internet platforms, such as Google Earth, show possible entrances to underground bases in Antarctica. One such example is images showing strange holes in the ice sheet that resemble man-made structures. Satellite images have also been discovered on South Georgia Island, which some researchers believe indicate a possible UFO crash. One such image was found on Google Earth and shows what appears to be a crashed spaceship. The image aroused interest among ufologists and internet researchers who suggested that it could be debris of alien origin. Some of these objects have unusual shapes and sizes that are difficult to explain by natural processes. The alleged UFO on South Georgia Island has often been compared to the interstellar object Oumuamua, which came to the attention of scientists in 2017. Oumuamua, discovered as the first known interstellar object to pass through the solar system, has an unusual shape and trajectory that does not match the characteristics of ordinary asteroids or comets. This has led to speculation that it could be an alien probe or spacecraft.
The Mystery of the Vatican and Fatima. In 1917, 3 children in the Portuguese village of Fatima saw a strange glow in the sky. It appeared suddenly, changed the weather, and made the crowd freeze. The light illuminated the clearing, and a female figure appeared in front of the children. She did not speak. The messages sounded in their minds. The Catholic Church recognized this as a miracle, calling the phenomenon the Virgin Mary. But a century later, ufologists claim it was contact, not divine, extraterrestrial. Mark Christopher Lee, a British researcher, directly accused the Vatican of hiding the fact of a meeting with a non-human civilization for decades. He claims that the descriptions of the phenomenon coincide with the classic signs of UFO contact: blinding light, telepathic communication, electromagnetic interference, mass visions. According to him, everything that is happening is not mysticism, but an interpretation of a high-tech phenomenon by a primitive consciousness. The third secret of Fatima, long classified, only added fuel to the fire. Its contents were hidden for decades, and when the Vatican finally published the text, many noticed it was not the original. Or not everything was said. Lee and other researchers believed that this prophecy was about contact, and that is why the Church did everything to turn the incident into a religious symbol and not a technological anomaly. What scares the Church? Loss of control, or the admission that it has long known about something that others are forbidden to talk about?
Burial of the Heavenly Guest. In 1901, an expedition of British archaeologists, led by Lord William Campbell, was excavating one of the ancient tombs in the desert near the Giza pyramids. Having opened a massive sarcophagus, the researchers encountered a sensation. Inside was a mummy that was significantly different from all known remains of ancient Egypt. The creature was over 2.5 meters tall, and its skull was unusually elongated and narrow, reminiscent of images of gods on the walls of Egyptian temples. The bones were much denser than human bones, and their structure indicated increased strength, as if intended for life in different conditions. The strangest thing is that there were no traces of embalming or autopsy on the body, but it was perfectly preserved, as if it were in stasis. On the sarcophagus, archaeologists discovered engravings that mentioned a messenger of the stars who arrived during the time of the pharaohs. The hieroglyphs hinted at beings who descended from the sky and taught the ancient Egyptians architecture and astronomy. Some symbols resembled star maps, and the interior walls of the tomb depicted flying disc-shaped objects. The discovery gave rise to many theories, from an alternative history of Egypt's connection with extraterrestrial civilizations to speculation about a lost human race. However, shortly after its excavation, the artifact disappeared without a trace. It was sent to a private collection, and references to it were quickly erased from official records.
The Mystery of the Flying Stones. India is always shrouded in secrets and mysteries. In any corner of it, you can encounter something amazing and incredible. Many come here for new experiences, to discover unknown spiritual possibilities in themselves. Once you have visited this amazing country, it is impossible to forget it. One of the mysteries of India is the levitating stones in the small village of Shivapur, which is located 200 kilometers from Bombay. Near the local temple, there are several boulders whose weight exceeds 50 kilograms. These stones, according to local residents, can rise into the air. It takes 11 men to lift the first, heavier stone. They must stand around it and say certain words. After this, the stone begins to levitate and can be held with one finger.
The smaller boulder requires 9 men to lift. There is also a third stone weighing over 60 kilograms, which only the monks of the temple can lift. The origin of these stones is mysterious. Some believe they were sent by the gods, others think they broke off from a nearby rock. A local resident who takes care of the temple claims that the stones break from time to time, and he replaces them with new ones by chipping them from the rock. But even new stones retain their flying properties. Some scientists suggest that ancient people were able to move objects with the power of thought, as, for example, during the construction of the Egyptian pyramids. The knowledge of levitation may have been lost, but sometimes resurfaces in places like Shivapur. Interestingly, in the last century, Edward Leedskalnin, an immigrant from Latvia, used similar methods to build his coral castle in Florida, which only confirms the existence of such knowledge. These unexplained phenomena support the hypothesis of extraterrestrial influence on ancient civilizations, suggesting that some technologies or methods may have been transmitted to humanity by representatives of other worlds. The skull of a broken woman. At the cemetery of Chega Sofla in southwestern Iran, archaeologists have found a skull that haunts them. It is 6,200 years old. It belonged to a young woman. Her forehead is stretched forward unnaturally, like the royal mummies of the Mayans or the Andean priests. This is the result of deliberate modification. As a child, her head was tied so that over time it would take on an elongated shape. This was done only to the chosen ones, those who belonged to a special caste, or who were born to be sacrificed. But the most terrible thing is not the shape of the skull, but its fracture. A triangular crack on the left side of the cranium is the result of a powerful blow. Judging by the data, the injury occurred a few minutes before death. It was fast, and perhaps deliberate. A wide object. One strong blow. Death occurred instantly. A CT scan showed the skull was thin. The modification made it fragile, but even in an ordinary person, such a blow would have caused the same consequences. The blow is not random, the place is not usual, the burial is not typical. Everything suggests that the woman was important, so much so that her death was part of the ritual. Frog or jade birthing woman. Archaeologists have presented the first results of excavations at the Svinjarika Kuka site in southern Serbia, and they are truly impressive. This site, located in the South Morava River Basin, has become a real window into the past. The remains of settlements that are about 8,000 years old were discovered here. The earliest finds date back to the early and middle Neolithic period, approximately 6,100, 5,500 BC. Among the many artifacts, a small jade pendant resembling a frog or a figure in the position of a woman giving birth attracted special attention. It was found near one of the ancient houses. It weighs only a few grams, is no larger than a matchbox, but its significance is enormous. Jade is not found in these parts, and its closest source is southern Bulgaria, which speaks of the complex connections between ancient communities. In addition to the jade figurine, the researchers found 115 clay figurines and the remains of buildings indicating permanent residence, not temporary camps. People returned here later in the Bronze and Iron Ages. One Bronze Age burial surprised even experienced archaeologists. A man with more than 30 gold beads was buried in a stone box. Such luxury is unusual for the region and may be associated with the cultures of the lower Danube. UFO landing pad. Gary Dixon, 62, from Flint, Wales, was driving to Llangollen when he was caught by a 15-meter white circular disc slowly rotating on the surface of the River Dee in Denbighshire. He was so intrigued by this unusual object that he decided to walk a few kilometers to study it closer. The disc was perfectly round and rotated counterclockwise, creating the impression of a mysterious natural phenomenon. Gary, who was planning to spend a winter day in Llangollen, was so fascinated by what he saw that he stayed to watch it for about half an hour. According to his observations, the disc made one rotation per hour. Ice discs, as it turns out, are not uncommon. This natural phenomenon is observed all over the world, from Russia and China to Scandinavia and North America. The first recorded sighting of an ice disk was in 1895 in the USA on the Mianus River in Connecticut. In recent years, such natural formations have attracted attention due to their impressive size. For example, in January 2019, a 100-meter-wide ice disk was discovered on the Presumpscot River in Maine. But an even more impressive case occurred in Canada, where a giant rotating disk with a diameter of 200 meters was spotted on the Tahltan River, which was captured by satellite lenses. These unique ice formations have received different names: ice circles, frying pans, and carousels.
Insulted mummies. The theory of ancient astronauts is still popular. Its supporters claim that the gods were aliens, and ancient buildings are their technologies. Archaeologists consider this a distortion of history and call such versions aliens in the gaps, when ignorance is replaced by fantasy. Such ideas arise especially often around Peru. After the book Chariots of the Gods, the Nazca figures began to be called landing strips for UFOs, although they are clearly visible from the hills and some of them are oriented towards the stars and water sources. The most disturbing thing is the mummies from Peru presented as alien. One of them, Maria, had 3 fingers, an elongated skull, and a frightening appearance. Journalist Jaime Maussan showed her in a film, but independent experts were denied access. Archaeologists suspected that these could be the remains of a real person deliberately mutilated. Skull deformation is a common practice among many peoples, a symbol of high status. All skulls that underwent DNA analysis turned out to be human. Not a single one was an alien. The problem is not the strange hypotheses, it's that they insult real civilizations by attributing their achievements not to them, but to imaginary creatures. The unusual shape of the asteroid Oumuamua. In 2017, astronomers recorded a mysterious object flying through the solar system. Named Oumuamua, which means messenger from afar in Hawaiian, it became the first known interstellar asteroid. But the most surprising thing is its shape. At 230 meters long and only 35 meters wide, it turned out to be abnormally elongated, which is not typical for asteroids. Chinese astronomers have suggested that such objects are formed as a result of tidal disruption when a celestial body comes too close to a massive planet or star and disintegrates. In their calculations, the best creator of such asteroids is a system with a red dwarf and a gas giant located close to the star. Some scientists believe that Oumuamua could be a fragment of a planet or planetesimal, the building material of young worlds. However, even under the best conditions, such objects are formed extremely rarely, so its appearance is a real interstellar rarity, perhaps the only one in our entire history of observations. The mystery of the Giraffe civilization. In Iran, in the ancient city of Giraffe, archaeologists discovered unique artifacts. These finds, over 5,000 years old, feature pottery and stone artifacts depicting unusual creatures and symbols. Particular attention is drawn to figures with elongated heads and large eyes which resemble descriptions of alien creatures. The images on the artifacts of the Giraffe civilization are so unique and different from other known ancient cultures that some researchers have hypothesized about possible contacts with extraterrestrial civilizations. These hypotheses are based on the fact that ancient artists could depict what they saw or heard about. The finds also include complex geometric patterns and symbols that have not yet been deciphered. This only adds to the mystery of this ancient culture. The Giraffe civilization, thanks to its mysterious artifacts, attracts the attention of not only archaeologists, but also lovers of mysticism and the inexplicable. Chichen Itza and its mysteries. Chichen Itza was of great importance to the Mayan civilization as a political, economic, and religious center. This ancient city, located on the northern Yucatan Peninsula, was an important site for rituals and ceremonies related to the gods and astronomical phenomena. Erich von Daniken, known for his theories about ancient aliens, paid attention to the El Castillo Pyramid, Temple of Kukulkan, in his research. He suggested that the accuracy of the pyramid's architectural and astronomical elements may indicate Mayan contact with extraterrestrial civilizations. Daniken noted that pyramids like El Castillo could have been built using technologies unknown to modern scientists. The symbolic meaning of the light shown in the steps of the El Castillo pyramid during the equinoxes is associated with the cultic veneration of the god Kukulkan. During the spring and autumn equinoxes, sunlight creates the illusion of a serpent descending the steps of the pyramid. This phenomenon was interpreted as the return of Kukulkan to Earth, confirming the importance of the Mayas' astronomical knowledge and their ability to design architecture in harmony with the movements of celestial bodies. The Mayans believed in the return of the god Kukulkan, a feathered serpent who symbolized rebirth and renewal. This belief was based on ancient myths and texts such as the Popol Vuh and the Mayan codes, which describe the cyclical nature of time and the return of the gods at certain points in history. Kukulkan was an important deity associated with wind, water, and fertility, making his cult especially significant to the agrarian Mayan society. Modern archaeologists interpret these finds as evidence of the high level of development of astronomy and engineering among the Mayans. They believe that the pyramids and other structures of Chichen Itza were built taking into account complex mathematical calculations and observations of the movement of celestial bodies. Scrolls and artificial intelligence. Thousands of fragments of texts were found in the Qumran caves, many of them biblical, some of them unknown. But now, decades after their discovery, science says something no one expected. These scrolls may not have been written just in that era. Some of them match the dates of the supposed authors of the Old Testament themselves. A team of researchers from the University of Groningen cleaned the manuscripts of castor oil used for conservation and reran radiocarbon dating. The result, many of the texts are much older than previously thought. Some date back to the time of Ecclesiastes, others to the time of the prophet Daniel. But what's more interesting is not radiocarbon, but Enoch. Artificial intelligence trained on the structure of ink and traces of writing. It determined the dating of the fragments with an accuracy of 85% without destroying the parchment. Moreover, he discovered graphic coincidences that had been ignored before. Overlapping styles, overlapping eras, handwritings. This means that we can do more than just read these texts. We can follow the hand that wrote them, understand when, where, perhaps even by whom. The future of humanity on Mars. Elon Musk does not abandon the idea of colonizing Mars. He is confident that Starship automatic stations will land there as early as 2027, and by 2031, the first people will be able to set foot on the red planet. But how will society work on Mars? Elon Musk claims that the Martian colony should be completely self-sufficient without being tied to earthly states. At the same time, he advocates the rejection of representative democracy in favor of direct popular governance. A similar system existed in Veliki Novgorod, Russia from 1136 to 1478. The townspeople gathered at the Veiche and decided important issues themselves: laws, peace treaties, the reign of the prince. In fact, Musk is proposing a similar model for the first Martians. In his opinion, Mars is a chance for humanity to start from scratch and survive if the Earth is on the brink of disaster. History of Egyptian princes. The discoverer of Australia was the Dutchman Willem Janszoon in 1606. However, scientific evidence from the early 20th century presented an unexpected twist. Ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs were discovered in Australia. These finds indicate that the Egyptians were on the Green Continent 5,000 years before the Europeans. The hieroglyphs were found in the Kariung archaeological site on the east coast of Australia, where they had long been known to local Aboriginal people. These glyphs, called the Gosford glyphs, contain texts that describe the expedition of the ancient Egyptians. These texts speak of the arrival on the Australian shores and the tragic fate of the prince who led the expedition, who died from a snake bite. After his death, according to ancient customs, the body was mummified and buried in a cave. Despite the seeming improbability of such a journey, there are arguments in favor of the possibility of long-distance travel by the Egyptians. Thor Heyerdahl successfully crossed the Atlantic in the papyrus boat Ra II, demonstrating that papyrus boats could withstand long voyages. Critics point out that the style of the glyphs does not correspond to classical Egyptian hieroglyphs, but this may be explained by their creation not by professional scribes, but by sailors. The authenticity of the Gosford glyphs has been confirmed by some renowned Egyptologists. Baigu stone pipes. In a remote area of China at the foot of Mount Baigu, amazing underground pipes made of stone have been discovered. These ancient structures, over 5,000 years old, are amazing in their complexity and precision. Excavations have shown that the pipes go deep underground and have a variety of sizes, from small with a diameter of several centimeters to huge, more than a meter in diameter. The technology used to create these pipes remains a mystery to modern scientists. How were ancient civilizations able to carve and install such complex structures? Their origin and purpose remain unknown, giving rise to many hypotheses and speculations. Researchers speculate that these pipes could be part of an ancient water supply or ventilation system. However, there is a more intriguing theory. Perhaps the Baigu stone chimneys are evidence of extraterrestrial involvement. The precision and scale of construction raises the possibility of ancient technology that we do not yet understand. It is interesting that similar artifacts are known from other places around the world. For example, on the Colorado Plateau, the pipes here also have a diameter from 50 centimeters to 1 centimeter. Archaeologists discovered that the inside of these pipes was covered with an iron-containing crust. Something similar was discovered in Louisiana, USA. In this case, the diameters reach 70 centimeters. Copper object. This mysterious artifact made from a single piece of copper alloy puzzles researchers and collectors. The object, rather crudely cast with visible defects, has a head in the shape of a rectangular prism which narrows on all sides to a sharp edge. The handle, smoothly rounded at the end, shows no traces of blows, which indicates that it was not used for striking in the usual sense. Interestingly, the edges of the head previously had parallel lines and scratches that have worn off over time. This may indicate repeated use of the artifact, possibly in the process of cutting, grinding, or scraping. The estimated dating of the artifact varies between 5,000 and 10,000 years, but the exact origin remains unclear. Some researchers hypothesize that this object could have been used for ritual purposes or as part of an unknown technological device. Alternative history proponents believe that such artifacts could have been part of ancient, highly advanced tools created using technology beyond the capabilities of ancient metallurgists. Flying Tic Tac. A UFO has been found on Mars again. At least that's what social media users decided when they saw a strange photo taken by a NASA rover. A smooth cylindrical object similar to the famous Tic Tac candy appeared in the frame among the rocks and dust. The play of light and shadows made it even more mysterious. It seems as if it is hovering above the surface. This photo was not taken yesterday. It was taken by the Curiosity rover back in 2020 during the search for traces of ancient life. But attention to it only flared up now when one of the Reddit users posted a photo with the caption "Tic Tac on Mars." And then it all started. Some even compared it to the same UFO that U.S. Navy pilot David Fravor observed over the Pacific Ocean in 2004. Then the pilot described a perfectly white object without wings or windows, shaped like a Tic Tac, that was moving at incredible speed and suddenly disappeared from radar. But if we return to Mars, it is most likely just an unusual stone. It seems to be flying due to the peculiarities of the shooting and shadows. Mummy Montserrat. The story of the alien mummies from Peru has received an unexpected continuation. Inside one of them, called Montserrat, scientists allegedly discovered the remains of a fetus. A CT scan shows a small fetus lying on its back. According to calculations, it was the 30th week of pregnancy. The mummy itself is female, about 160 centimeters tall, with metal implants in her arms and chest. The age of the find is about 1,200 years, or maybe more. Montserrat is part of a scandalous collection that Mexican ufologist Jaime Maussan presented in 2017. He claimed that all the mummies were real and had nothing to do with humans. In 2023, he again stated this under oath in the Mexican parliament. According to him, these creatures have 3 fingers, an atypical anatomy, and are not similar to any earthly creature. But there is another side. Forensic examination in Peru found glue, paper, metal inserts, and fragments of animal bones in these mummies. The conclusion was harsh. The artifacts are artificially assembled dolls. However, not everyone agrees with this. American jazz musician and amateur ufologist William Gallison personally saw the mummies before the rest of the world found out about them. He believes that they could have been ritual prefabricated structures created many centuries ago. But if these are indeed fakes, the main question arises: why? Why did someone assemble such complex artifacts more than 1,000 years ago, if even today they baffle scientists? I don't know who left this. I don't know why. But when you have Nazis, UFOs, mummies, and structures under the ice in one story, it's not a question of whether you believe it. It's a question of how much of it we're just not ready to understand. Thanks for watching this video to the end. Bye, everyone.